Okay, just a couple of things before I do talk about my dissertation is one, you can see my hair is a similar color to my dress. I didn't dye my hair. I went swimming, and I think my landlords did a shock treatment to the pool and didn't tell me. I have not had my hair turn this green from chlorine since I was a kid, so that's why my hair is this color. Two, and this is related to me talking about, Mr. Lady Van, is you would not believe how many friends I've lost since speaking more openly about him. And, men talk about being friend zoned and how awful that is. I just wish they knew when they say that. You think that's bad? Try being fuck zoned. Try finding out that all these people you thought were your friends were just hanging around your orbit, hoping for an opportunity one day. So to everybody who has more or less stopped talking to me because I'm in a more serious committed relationship, go fuck yourself. Because you're not going to fuck me, that's for sure. And you weren't going to anyway. But you're definitely not now. So it really hurts. It's not, sadly, not shocking. Not shocking, but it is hurtful. And they don't get that. They don't get that. I have guy friends that are still my friend who also still don't get that. And it's like, I filed that away, just FYI. I filed away your response when I talk about this, so I'd be a little more careful. Anyway, I was going to talk about my dissertation proposal. So, and I've just been thinking about it because, of things with Mr. Lady Van and, thinking about past relationships and still dreaming about people and still realizing that I care. For those of you who don't know, I was going to go to Juilliard. I actually trained as an actress and a singer from the age of about 8 to 20. And I was going to go to Juilliard. Unfortunately, you've heard me talk about my chronic health issues, which is almost certainly a mess. Though I can't get a doctor to take me seriously, which I don't want to get into in this video. Chronic health problems, chronic pain, particularly pain with speaking and singing. Like, I'm speaking now, it is painful. My voice is completely unreliable. I can't. On top of that, I was told repeatedly I was not pretty enough to pursue that as a career. Couldn't get an agent, couldn't get anybody. They would say, you have to lose 30 pounds. And I was probably the thinnest I've ever been in my life at the time. Like, they wanted me to weigh 80 something pounds because I was, 117 or 112, one another. And they were like, you need to lose 30 pounds, which would have put me in the 80s. You need to have face work. You need to have your teeth done. You need to have this. You need to do that. And even if you do all of that, you're still too short. And just all of that combined with the health stuff, I was just like, I can't do this. If my voice was reliable, I would knuckle through all the other pain problems. But if you can't count on your voice, then you can't act. You certainly can't sing. And having music stolen from my life is a huge driving factor behind the suicidal ideation. So I didn't go to Juilliard. I wanted to direct, I wanted to sing, I wanted to act. But I did want to direct as well. I really wanted to make films, honestly. I love doing theater, but I really love film as a medium. But obviously that didn't happen. So I worked for a little while before I went to school, and I said, took the time to think about it. Got just a general science degree. And I decided to be a sex therapist. So got a degree, got my psychology degree, and I also have a biology degree. I double major, psychology and biology, and my specialty was evolutionary psychology, which is looking at how behaviors have an evolutionary benefit and what those benefits are, and so why do we as a species act the way we do in certain situations. So for my PhD, which I did not finish because I couldn't get funding for my dissertation, but that was what I wanted to focus on in terms of human sexuality. So for my dissertation, I came up with a study, a correlational study. It was a 2-part correlational study. And the first part had to do with direct research, where I would have participants come in and answer a survey that I designed. And then depending on where they ranked, they would take part in the physical research part. So the question I was looking at was, what is the relationship between orgasm intensity and female copulatory vocalization? Because it seemed to me that women who are more vocal in bed have greater and more intense orgasms. So you start to look at the research. You start to look at what people are reporting on the survey. So people, I would talk to women, and then women who scored in a certain range would go on to the next part. And the next part was a physical study where you would actually put a probe and internally and externally on the vagina and the vulva and the labia and all that stuff. And you would measure the dilation of the blood vessels while recording the vocalization of a woman having an orgasm. So we should probably have them masturbate, right? And to see how much blood and how much arousal and how the intensity of the orgasm was reported, and how that correlated with the vocalizations. Now, the next question is why study this? Because based on the anthropological evidence, and we have tens of thousands of years of it to look at. So we're looking at, human ancestry, physical evidence as well as psychological evidence. You say, whoa, okay, if women who are more vocal have better, more intense orgasms, why is that? So my theory was that women are signaling receptivity to other males. Now, in order to do that, the biological imperative to vocalize has to outweigh the risk. So if we're talking about primitive humans and our closest relatives, which are the great apes, if they're vocalizing to the point that they are acknowledging to other males in the area, hey, I'm receptive, I'm available, they're also signaling to predators, hey, I'm in a vulnerable position right now, you can come eat me. No pun intended. So why would we do that? The answer is that humans and most animals, particularly most primates, are non-monogamous animals. We're certainly not successfully monogamous. That has been crowbarred in by the advent of farming, of agriculture, and the Judeo-Christian Western tradition. So prior to the advent of agriculture, humans, of course, were nomadic, hunter-gatherers, and they lived in societies that were not in one place. So you're not passing property. So there wasn't a need for that kind of bloodline. So there wasn't a need for discovering, okay, this is definitely my kid, so they're definitely going to keep this, who's definitely going to hand it down, who's definitely... Before that, it was, whoever's successful, whatever. The thing is, when there's a lot of anthropological evidence, so those feelings of what we call the honeymoon period in a relationship generally lasts 1 to 3 years. 1 to 3 years is about the time it takes to successfully get the offspring off the ground, to conceive, birth, and then have them live to a point, because infant mortality happens very early. So if it's 1 to 3 years, you have now successfully had offspring, and you don't need to be intensely in love anymore, because that was the whole point. So there's that. There is the chemical composition of semen. So male humans generally orgasm in a set of 3 chemically composed spurts, for lack of a better word. So the first third is chemically composed to combat existing semen in the vaginal canal. The second third is chemically composed to be primed for fertilization. And the last third is chemically composed to be offensive, to fight against incoming semen. Now, why would that be? Well, obviously, women are having multiple partners. Okay? If you look at our closest cousins, which are chimps and bonobos, these are not a monogamous species. If you look at the height and size difference between males and females in most species, including humans, you'll see bigger, stronger males who are competing for females. I mean, there's a lot of evidence. My point is, human beings are not a successfully monogamous species. It is not natural, it is not normal, and that's why it doesn't work. And that's why people cheat. And I'm not saying cheating's okay. If you've agreed to a monogamous relationship, then you need to honor that, your agreement. We are, we're able to do it. We just don't want to because it's not natural. And I had this realization, I think, before I even did that, before I even started my PhD proposal, my dissertation proposal, I should say. I was first dating Kit. And we were at a Halloween party, and this was before I drank. So I was stone cold sober, and he was drinking. And we'd only been dating, 6 months or something. And he was drunk, and he was telling me at this Halloween party how he wanted to fuck all my friends. And I was just realized, yeah, I don't give a fuck, go ahead. He didn't, because one, they never would have, and two, he he wasn't gonna ask. But yeah, I realized I didn't care. And funnily, he got mad at me over the course of our relationship because he cheated on me constantly. But I was the one who had no honor because I didn't believe in monogamy. I wasn't seeing anybody else. I wasn't cheating on him. I wasn't doing any of that because we had agreed to be monogamous. So I do believe in ethical non-monogamy. I believe in the importance of the primary pair bond. I do think that's important. But exclusivity doesn't work, and we need to stop trying to make it work. So that's a very, very abbreviated version of my dissertation, and why and what and all of that. But I wish people would look more into it. I think absolutely everyone should read Sex at Dawn, which is about the prehistoric origins of modern human sexuality. And obviously, I didn't get funding. So I said, well, hell with this. I'm not paying you. You should be paying me. Got into a biology PhD that was looking at specializing in bees. In particular, it was virology in bees and looking at these diseases, which is so super important. But I just did not want to be a bee specialist. So I said, okay, plan what? What are we on now? A, B, C, F. Plan F. I'll be a zookeeper and I'll be poor forever. And I knew that. I just didn't know how poor. So finally, a couple years ago, made that gut-wrenching decision to get out of zookeeping because I just couldn't live on the money. So now I do wine and food and other interesting stuff, but it's not never what the plan was. Anyway. So yeah, if you have questions about it, I'm always really happy to talk about all things, sexuality and psychology and all that. So if you have questions, feel free to hit me up. But yeah, that was the Cliff Notes version of my dissertation proposal, and I hope you guys found it interesting, and I hope it makes some of you think, because let's stop trying to force ourselves into boxes that we don't fit in, or we're just going to keep having problems. And I blame a lot of what's going on us trying to make things work that just don't work. So I guess that's it. Talk to you soon.